MLB is expanding. We know that for certain. But what if they didn't just expand to 32 or 34 or 36 or even 38 teams? What if MLB expanded to 40 teams, guys? Today I wanted to talk about that hypothetical scenario, giving my top 10 cities if MLB were to expand all the way to 40 teams. This is completely unrealistic, but I did do it for the NFL, and it is kind of just a fun exercise to go through some of the cities I would incorporate. I am not including Mexico City. That would be kind of the one. Maybe even Puerto Rico, you can say. To me, Puerto Rico is a little bit more with the travel and also the situation with finding a new stadium. The reason I'm not including Mexico City, it is just impossible with it being 2,000 feet higher above sea level than Denver, Colorado. And we know how much of an offensive ballpark Coors Field is. Imagine 2,000 feet higher than Coors. It makes Mexico City completely unusable in terms of them getting a team and playing half of their home games there. It would just be ridiculous for the offenses. So guys, I'm going to give my top 10 cities. The number one city, if MLB expanded to 40 teams, it's got to be Nashville, Tennessee. This is a slam dunk. This is an up-and-coming city who is already funding a $2.2 billion NFL stadium. They're trying to get an MLB team. They're making their pitch right now to get the Nashville Stars. I do think they are a pretty heavy favorite to be one of the expansion teams in this scenario. Of course, the city Nashville is an obvious choice. The only concern I have is maybe public funding. If they're already partially paying for a $2.2 billion NFL stadium, would they also fork over some money for an MLB stadium? It would have to be almost like a private thing, probably a $1.5 billion retractable roof ballpark in my estimation. Moving on to the number two city, it is Virginia Beach, Virginia. This is such a great opportunity for MLB to get into the Virginia market. They have 0 professional sports teams in the entire state of Virginia. Pretty crazy. And Virginia Beach, you could build a ballpark right alongside the water. It's a no-brainer, and this would be a 40-team expansion. In terms of Virginia Beach possibly getting a team if MLB just expands to 32 or 34 teams, I'd say it's very unlikely, but if they went to 40 teams, absolutely a city in Virginia, whether it is Virginia Beach, Richmond, or whoever, I'm sure someone would get a team there. The number 3 city is Montreal, so we are going back to Canada, putting another team up there. Montreal, kind of an obvious choice, one of the cities that everyone talks about. They lost their team back in the 90s, poor attendance, along with a horrible stadium, dealing with Olympic Stadium. They would need a brand new state-of-the-art place, but in terms of a 40-team league, absolutely Montreal is going to get a team back. I mean, imagine if Montreal and that fan base got a team again, they would be completely rejuvenated. It's an obvious choice for me. The number 4 city is Austin, Texas. So I talked about this with the NFL. Austin, Texas is just such a great untapped market right now with how fast it's growing. The tech in the city is just crazy. It is growing in population exponentially, and I would say when it comes to an expansion team for baseball, you're in the state of Texas. If they add another one, it's down to San Antonio and Austin, Texas, and some key factors with San Antonio. They've got an older population, and they are not growing anywhere near Austin, Texas is. That's why I chose Austin as a potential MLB expansion team. The number 5 city, it's going to be San Jose, California. Originally, I went with Oakland, but I think, right now it's impossible for San Jose to get an expansion team because of the situation with the San Francisco Giants. But I think if this hypothetical scenario, MLB expands to 40 teams, San Jose, with how big it is, with how much money they have, it's like the 10th biggest city in the United States. So it would seem rather obvious in my estimation for MLB. If they go back to California, San Jose seems like a likely spot because of the population, because of the amount of money in the city. Moving on to the number 6 city, it is Orlando, Florida. So this one might be a little fringe because it would be tough. MLB already dealing with big attendance problems, both with the Marlins and the Rays. The Rays might be on the verge of relocation. They are trying to fund a new stadium. We'll see. Could Orlando take the Rays in a relocation type scenario? I think it's possible. But in this hypothetical, this is just Orlando getting their own team. It seems very likely they could have some type of fan base that would support it. Orlando, they do have the Magic, but they don't have an NFL team. So Orlando would be another city I would pick. The number 7 city, it's going to be Salt Lake City, Utah. So they are one of the cities right now that is making a bid to try and get an MLB expansion team. So is Orlando, Florida, by the way. But Salt Lake City, they've put out their pitch. I think it would be really cool, right up against the mountains, build a ballpark. I don't love the renderings I've seen from them, but I do think, Salt Lake City, they would have a very solid fan base, maybe not extremely attractive in terms of market size, but if you're MLB, you need some teams like that to balance it out. So go out west, Salt Lake City. I like the idea of it. Add in a bunch of different things, different time zones. They would be one of the cities on my list. The number 8 city, it is Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, Louisville getting an MLB team. Louisville has really not been talked about at all in terms of MLB expansion because, let's be real, they're only expanding by 2 teams. Louisville is not going to be one of the top cities, but this is a hypothetical scenario. It's an untapped market. You're going to get very loyal fans there. They're dying for a pro sports team, so Louisville would be my number 8 city. My number 9 city is Portland, Oregon, so this is another city that is trying to get an expansion team right now. They do have stadium renderings, the whole 9 yards. I would say the reason I'm skeptical on Portland, it just doesn't seem like it would be a great spot for an MLB team. The population doesn't seem like it's increasing very much. So I would say Portland in terms of really getting an expansion team. I mean, listen, the MLB could say we want 1 East Coast, 1 West Coast. That would really improve Portland's chances. I think MLB says, we're doing Nashville and then maybe a place in Texas, something like that. But Portland is a viable option. And by looking at this, I saw I probably needed another team out west because I'm trying to balance it. So I'm going with Portland, Oregon. And then the 10th and the final city for MLB expansion to 40 teams, it is Charlotte, North Carolina. Under the radar, sneaky big city Charlotte is. And they're kind of, the secondary option. If Nashville doesn't get an MLB expansion team, it would probably go to Charlotte. They are under the radar. They do have the Panthers, they have the Hornets, they have the Hurricanes, but now they get an MLB team to completely round it out. Those would be my 10 cities in terms of a crazy hypothetical 40-team expansion. Number 1, you've got Nashville. That's more East Coast. Virginia Beach, also East Coast. Montreal, that's in Canada. Austin, Texas, kind of center of the country. San Jose, California. West Coast. Orlando, Florida, East. Salt Lake City, West. Louisville, East. Portland, West. Charlotte, East. I tried to balance it with the 10 different cities. Again, in terms of real life, I would say Nashville, very high percent chance to get an expansion team, maybe like 75. And then after that, it's really wide open. You're talking about Portland. The problem Charlotte's going to run into, I don't think they would do both Nashville and Charlotte for expansion. I think they would do one or the other. So either Nashville or Charlotte, and then go either into Texas. And that's when maybe San Antonio becomes a play. But if Austin, Texas offers something, I think MLB would be much better off going to Austin, Texas than San Antonio, but it would be somewhere in Texas or somewhere out west. And right now, the only 2 main places out west, because San Jose got their expansion turned down, the only 2 places would be Salt Lake City and Portland, Oregon. And I would say Salt Lake City has a slight edge over Portland, Oregon. And then when it comes to the Orlando, Florida thing, they're much more likely getting the Rays in a relocation to Orlando than they are getting another MLB team in Florida. Of course, if it's a hypothetical 30-team scenario, it makes it a lot easier to put a lot of teams in Florida because you're just dealing with more teams as it is. But in terms of real life, Orlando getting an expansion team with MLB already having the big attendance issues with both the Rays and the Marlins, I don't see it. The only way they're getting a team is through the Rays relocating to Orlando, and you would figure just with a bigger population, better located ballpark in the city, they would get significantly higher attendance, especially being a new team to the area as well. So guys, that is just my list of the top 10 cities for MLB relocation in a hypothetical 40-team league. That's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.